Welcome back, Visions fans. Ready Player Will here. Today we're doing the Resnick the Hoppy character review, brand new global exclusive unit for Lunar New Year that just came out this week. A lot of people already talking about her, and obviously I'm here to give you my thoughts. So today's review, pretty standard character overview, base and total stat analysis, some other metrics, all leading up to the report card, where I incorporate those stats, kind of transition my thoughts to the class and job overview as well. I'm going to pause to give an important reminder just about what I end up giving her for a grade and how you should think about her as a character, but then I'm also going to go into the TMR review, my general thoughts to kind of summarize everything that we now know, and finally get into some job-based vision card eligibility, Esper Synergies, and weapon optimization as well. So kicking things off here, brand new Earth unit. They've given her the Jumping Juggler unique main job, Strider and Thief subjobs, Dagger as the weapon with Hat, Cloth, and Accessory as the other equips, Move of 3, Jump of 2 as a 90 cost unit. Now from a resistance standpoint, she starts off with pretty good ones at 20% missile and 15% slash. Those are obviously the most common types, so it's good that she has some innate mitigation against those. 0% to pierce and magic, and only minus 5% to strike. So overall, no glaring weaknesses from a resistance standpoint. Now, from an ailment perspective, she is a 50 faith unit, so you don't need to be terribly worried about the status ailments proccing on her, but 50% to stun, 50% to charm, and 10% to sleep. Now, some people might look at this 50% to charm and go, wait a minute, that's what Sadali's limit break is. He's a wind unit. You would never bring her against him, so this 50% charm really doesn't mean anything. While that is true, Resnick, in a very popular build as a lightning unit, yes, regular Resnick has Steel Heart that will often get used. So when you're bringing Resnick the Hoppy against a regular Resnick, Earth Force Lightning anyway, she will resist that Steel Heart. So there is some upside there on that ailment. Now from a base stat perspective, HP-wise, a little bit above average, nothing too crazy though, but decent enough starting spot. From an attack perspective, she is just slightly below some of the top damage dealers in the game for a base attack stat, but overall in a really good spot there. Her first weakness here is on the base agility. There are ways that this does get made up for though, but starts off at 54 base agility, relatively slow compared to what other units tend to start off with. From a dexterity perspective, also very low, one of the lower dexterity units in the game. Now, this doesn't end up affecting a ton, but we're going to notice some trends in just a couple minutes here. And then finally, luck is basically at about average, which is semi-surprising given that she is touted as an evade unit. Now, she is an evade unit, but the luck stat you would have liked to see just a smidge higher from a base luck perspective. Now, we reconcile those base stats to total. Again, those two weaknesses there from a base stat perspective were the agility and the dexterity. When you start incorporating the board stats, there is some shifts here overall where she does take a step back a little bit in what they give for attack. She does get enough agility that she essentially becomes average from at least a starting perspective. Dexterity, they don't do much to fix, and they do give her a little bit above average luck from the board. So just talking about total stats without any equipments or whatnot, I would say that dexterity is really the only glaring initial weakness there, with agility and luck being fine, but you just kind of would have hoped to see them a smidge higher. Now we get to the crit and crit avoid. Now the thing about the critical hit rate, although she has a very low dexterity rate in total, they do give her 21% crit rate on her board. So this triangle that you're seeing on the left side here, without those board nodes, yes, she would be down here at the bottom of the line of all UR units. She does end up being about average because of them though, so not the worst starting spot from a crit rate perspective. Critical avoid rate, she's just slightly above average because of that luck stat. She will get higher than that with the luck passive as well and be up here around the 60% area. So good crit avoid rate as well, considering how much you're going to lean into building her luck stat as an evade unit. Now, on accuracy, she is basically average accuracy in her base form. Once you start applying some passives, though, specifically the 25 accuracy passive and the 12% luck passive, she does end up moving up the ranks pretty significantly to just maybe below where that top tier of accuracy units are, but it's certainly not in a terrible starting spot. Now, from an evasion perspective, a little bit lower than what I think I would have liked to have seen here, where when you look at this, ranking of evade units, she does fall on the lower end of the spectrum by double digits to what some of the higher evade units are. At least when you're maxing for luck scaling equipment and agility scaling equipment. Now, she does have a buff that will amplify her evasion by 25, so that will bump her up that list. Not all of these units have evasion buffs in their kit. Some do though, so she does still take a backseat to them. Characters notorious like Elena and Locke both have 25 evade buffs as well, so they also relatively get bumped up. So overall, definitely not a strong starting spot for evasion, but she is an evade unit. Now for the report card, effective HP, I'm just going to go with a C here overall. She is slightly squishy given her evade rate. Her effective HP is similar to Psaro for comparison, just in terms of like health pool and resist, but you have to remember Psaro is also way more evasive than she is. That's why I say slightly squishy. Now she is courage capable, just like him. She does have 8 AoE resistance on her weapon and some more on her vision card as well. If I had to guess, probably about 10% on the vision card, And then again, even the vision card may not always be equipped, so you can't always rely on that. But the 8 AoE on the weapon is something you'll likely have most of the time. Now, she has 6 innate spirit. You can get another 12 on the passive, and her main buff is also another 25. No innate defense or ways to boost that. So although she has that 0% magic resistance, she does skew higher than most units on the spirit potential perspective. And kind of vice versa, where slash and missile gets strong double-digit resist, but no defense. So kind of interesting how they played with that there. Now the primary stat, I'm going with a C+ here. Although her base attack is in a good spot, her passive abilities have no attack percent buffs, and her buffs in her rotation have no attack boosting things. So unless you get that externally, she never really achieves the value of that base attack, and because she's limited to slash attack type only, you're really relying on penetrations to get that maximum damage output. So C+ overall. Agility, I'm going B-, but there's a big asterisk on here. She's very agility dependent on the passives that you use. Now, you're going to typically have at least one of the two of them on. If you have one of them on, she's at 82 agility, including 15% and 8% vision cards. 82 is 2 points higher than the UR average of 80, so she is slightly above average in that regard. If you equip the second agility passive, gets her up to 88 or 89, which is basically tied for top in the game. Now, if you have neither of them on, she goes pretty much well below the average into like the mid to low 70s, where the average was 80. So really wide gradient of what you can achieve for agility with her, so very hard to peg that down specifically. Now, accuracy, I'm going with a B. The accuracy pass is really good. She will typically be a very high luck unit in your build, so accuracy shouldn't suffer terribly. But if you're strictly talking about min-maxing, she is a step below many of the top tier units and no guaranteed hit in her kit. Now, from an evasion perspective, I'm going to go B-. There's no innate evasion mastery ability or passive that just give her a flat percentage, which is kind of odd. Most evade units do. It's only on a buff, and even then, buffs can be dispelled, they wear off after 3 turns, enemies can give you an accuracy buff to offset it, so the buff isn't terribly reliable. So yeah, comparatively a little underwhelming. In her base form, she has similar innate evasion to characters like Dark Leela, Summer Kilf, and Oldoa. Again, characters that are technically evade units, but they're not evading everything. With the buff, she gets to essentially where Locke and Veneris start without any of their buffs. So it's there, it's just not the strongest. The movement, I'm going with a B here as well. Jump 2 innately, and she also has the move +1 passive, so she does have some good versatility there. Passive abilities, I'm going to go with a C+ here. I think they're pretty average for passives, and I think she needs more than what she can equip for just 2 of them. It's not that any of them are bad, I just think she needs to combine some of them. We'll see that in a slide or two. The counter abilities, I'm going B-. All 3 are good counters. I actually like all 3 of them. I'm just not in love with any specific one of them. They're all very specific to whatever kind of matchup you're seeing. Now, overall kit, I am going to go to a B+ here. There is a lot of really good utility. I'm just slightly worried about the AI priorities when it comes to damage dealing and making sure you fully utilize the utility where you want it to. That's always a big risk, where character has a great piece of utility on a damaging ability, but they just don't use that damaging ability as often, which leads us to the final grade of a B. Now, I will say, I think she seemingly misses the mark on really elevating Earth. I don't think she's going to make any giant waves by herself. She is a great PvE unit, though, for that Earth cast, particularly for guild raid content. I do think she could have some future upside as the game kind of evolves just a little bit, but I also think the 3rd anniversary neuters it a bit, where she won't get a mastery ability until a year from now when it's a next Lunar New Year. We have no idea about her 140 potential, things of that nature, so she could quickly get left behind. And I think a lot of people are currently getting hung up on the current meta with how strong Wind is, which absolutely is a factor when you consider her usability, but I don't always consider it when you talk about the character review itself. These reviews have never been a should you pull or are they good right now presentation. They're a character objective review of evaluating where they stand in the state of the game. So this is my reminder to all of you to remember to look at these characters as objectively as possible in the vacuum of the game balance itself, not really what you're seeing currently or what this current meta has. And the reason why you want to do that is because if you don't, you end up giving Cetia a C+ rating when she is not a C+ unit. This is tied for the worst grade I've ever given a character. If I were to do the Cetia review today, I'd give her a B+, and nothing about her has changed. If we step back in time to a year ago, though, I was absolutely a prisoner of the moment looking at this character, though, where A, missile attack with the Brachiosaur just kind of didn't make sense for fire. They were very slash, brawlier units. They had a lot of magic units introduced as well, so they were going to that magic blend as well. The vision card was basically non-existent for support in terms of luck 35%, which just came out this past week. Accuracy 25, which was the deleted card. We did not have the tactics rerun by that time yet. So vision card wise, it was very hard to make fire very viable. The fire in peril on her limit break didn't have good follow-up because fire didn't have very strong damage dealers. Accuracy for her lacked comparatively to other missile units, and we were in an evade meta at that time where most missile units have some kind of guaranteed hit or hyper strong accuracy. She was a step behind from them in that regard, so she came out and you're kind of like, well, we can't use her right now. The healing power down in her kit didn't look that special at the time. This was pre-Velis release. This was also pre-Resnick release. This was pre-knowing about Snow and Dark Leela and their self-sustain with their self-heal abilities and what healing power down does to counter them. So again, excellent utility that we didn't really know the value of at the time. Ice also wasn't a threat at the time, so she came in and you're kind of like, all right, like, cool, she can't beat anything else other than ice, and even then they're not that strong. And now in the next couple months, she will be amongst some of the first few 140 units. So yeah, being a prisoner at the moment, this character didn't look that great, but in the game balance of itself, this actually ends up being a relatively good character. And I think the same is true for Resnick the Hoppy. Don't think of them versus their counter element. Obviously, wind is very strong right now, so Earth has some limit on what they can potentially achieve. But think of her compared to the other elements. Can she help you beat ice? Can she help you beat fire? Can she help you beat light? I think the answer is yes for many of those things. So really important to maintain that objectiveness when you're trying to evaluate a character. Now, as we get into the class and job overview, the passive abilities. Juggling Master amongst one of my favorites here were the agility of 12% and the luck 12%. Again, that luck really important for accuracy and evasion. The agility obviously very important. You need to have one of these two agility passives on at all times. So I prefer Juggling Master of the two. Natural Instincts is another very good passive here that I think you'll have on most of the time. It's the accuracy of 25 and the defense penetration of 40. I will say though, the Black Garb +6 has made it so you don't have to be as reliant on Natural Instincts here with that 40 defense penetration. She has an ability, as we'll see in a second here, that has 50 defense penetration when she uses it. So if you didn't have Natural Instincts on and you only had Black Garb, well then you'd still have 70 defense penetration on that attack. That's really not all that bad. It's still pretty darn good. But still, I think this is my second favorite from just an overall usability perspective. Lawbeard is a really interesting one for future lightning magic metas, where Earth overall really isn't that great against magic, and Lightning has had a great influx of magic units, and Dark Ramu has certainly amplified their viability, where should we see that Lightning meta turn its head a little bit, Lawbeard is a great ability to help her mitigate that. Thief Lore is a great ability just for the versatility of adding a move +1 where if we need to keep pace with certain teammates or move to them for a certain distance to buff. And Acquired AP is really for the PvE potential, which is an excellent PvE unit. Now for the counter abilities, again, all three of these are good. I just don't know if any of them are necessarily great. First Blood is a preemptive counter ability, 30% chance to proc, which will slash the enemy about 3 squares away for 121% modifier. Preemptive attacks are great, nothing wrong with that. Danger Sense, again, for a character whose evasion is a smidge below average and the squishiness is just maybe a little bit below where it should be given the evasion rate, reducing the total damage taken of any kind by 30% is an excellent thing to potentially proc. And then Quick Action, another very good one if you are leaning into that hyper speedy Resnick build, where if you can increase your agility by 40% for that one turn, that obviously gets her turn quicker. All three of these are good. I just don't think any of them are necessarily great. They all have their time and place. Now for the main job buffs, Rabbit Rondo is her main one here. It's a teammate buff that's kind of in that cross shape. Increased speed of 25, missile resistance of 25%, evasion rate of 25, and AP of 20 to self. That AP is obviously huge. The 34 TP, when you cut that in half, she'll also generate 17 AP from it, but there's actually more than just the 17 because her mastery ability is 30% acquired AP up. So she actually will recover an immense amount of AP from using this ability. The second one here, which is vital to get off, you need to tune her AI in a way that you can use both of these if possible, is her courage ability. And why this is so important is that it adds 40% slash resistance penetration to her, which she desperately needs. This is a double cast ability of courage though, which is also very nice. Now for the offensive abilities here, really good versatility in what she has to offer. If we bring up the range and heights here, Bunny Bite, nothing spectacular, but it's not a bad one. 40% attack debuff. I don't love it, but whatever. Neutralizing Edge is really where you start to get some of these bright spots here, where it's an AoE Dispel auto re-raise and Dispel Haste for targets. excellent utility on this single ability. Thrice the Acrobat is a single target attack. This is the defense penetration of 50 on this ability. It's also a triple hit and decreased healing power of 50 for 3 turns. And really important, it is range height 2. So there's some really good height flexibility there for what she needs to hit. And then Domination, another excellent ability where it's AoE, Dispel, Protect in this X-shape AoE, which is really cool considering that she's got some versatility here in the shape of her AoE abilities. It also reduces the counter chance of 100% for those targets for 3 turns. So overall, some great versatility in terms of what you have for range, heights, AoE and single target, utility, defense penetration modifiers, triple hit, and regular hit. A lot of good things to like. Now the subjob Jumping Juggler, I actually hate this subjob. I think it's very poor for auto PvP. Now I'm going to skip ahead for a moment. Confusion Cut, I don't like it all. She's not a 97 faith unit, so the confusion is kind of whatever. She's also not hurting for AoE versatility, so having this extra AoE doesn't really do anything to add to that. But Rapid Rush in particular is where I'm really disappointed. I love the utility of the decreased accuracy of 30 on this attack. The problem with this ability is she is almost guaranteed to never use it in auto PvP for the simple reason of how the AI prioritizes its abilities. Now this is a 165% modifier, so isn't Thrice the Acrobat. The difference, though, is Thrice the Acrobat also has 50 defense penetration. So when you talk about min-maxing the damage and which ability it will pick, it will always pick Thrice the Acrobat over Rapid Rush, not including the fact that Thrice the Acrobat has a longer range and height 2, Rapid Rush is shorter range, height 1. Unless the enemy has negative defense, it will never use Rapid Rush, which I think is really sad. It's still a good PvE ability for the double hit upside. But auto PvP, I wish they slightly tweaked it so this one would be used. Now, Subjob Strider, this is really an excellent subjob, if for no other reason than twisting Shield Breaker here at the bottom. This is the break physical barrier for targets, Dispel Courage as well. So yes, she has access to both Dispel Re-Raise and Dispel Courage. It's technically an AoE. Yes, it's short range, but it's also a range height of 2, so some good versatility there. The rest of these abilities are fine. I just don't think you're going to use them very often in auto PvP. Constricting Cleave is actually a good one for PvE, where many bosses are weak to slow, so it's nice that she has the access for this. The rest of them, though, I don't think really add anything that her main job doesn't already do. Now for the Thief subjob, again, another excellent PvE job where you have Steal Time. That's the other big one that you really look for. Other than that, I don't think there's much here to really love. I do think there's some weird potential upside with Shadow Cast as an ability where, again, the thing with utility on abilities, it's only as good as if the enemies have the thing that the utility offers. So skipping back here, Rabbit Rondo is Spirit 25 and Missile Resistance 25. Should you encounter teams that have neither magic units that you're afraid of or missile attacks and you're not worried about the trade-off in losing AP, I think I would rather prefer to have her use Courage and then have her use Shadow Cast, which is a stronger evasion rate. Again, you won't get as much AP from it, but I think it's an interesting thing to play with depending upon your matchup. Now, the Limit Break and Mastery ability. Excellent Limit Break. Single target, decreases unit resistance of 38% for 3 turns, is also healing power down of 70. This is incredibly impactful for characters like Snow, Dark Leela, even characters that have some kind of regen or healer that pockets them. Excellent PvE Limit Break as well, where typically Earth relied on Halloween Fred's TMR, the Sneaky Snuggles, to reduce unit resistance. This one just does it already on the Limit Break, so I love this. The Mastery ability also I really like. 15 slash attack resistance penetration at all times, as well as the acquired AP of 30. Great for her AP management. Now we look at the TMR review. This is actually a very interesting TMR. The big demerit for me is that it is a single cast. You love to see them with 2 casts, so I don't love that. But there's 2 things that I think are really important to point out here. Number 1 is the well-roundedness of the stats, where it's 6 defense, 6 spirit, 7 accuracy, 7 evade. The upside to this is for those that really know how to leverage their Trust Stone set bonuses, means that you can equip a variety of set bonuses with this TMR and amplify either your defense, spirit, accuracy, or evade, depending upon the set bonus you're getting. I won't go terribly in depth on that in this review, but I think this is unique to this TMR that most TMRs don't get, that you can get a statistical advantage with alternative kinds of set bonuses. Now, the thing with the decrease AP upon critical hit for herself and teammates, the reason why I think this is kind of sneaky good in some cases is that most characters that have 100% guaranteed hit, it tends to be slightly more expensive than their other abilities. If you can reduce the enemy AP enough that they don't have access to those 100% chance abilities, well then obviously that helps her evasion and her survivability, as well as your teammates' evasion and survivability. So again, just like for instance, let's say you're going against Snow, who she seems to be a prime potential counter for. Snow has a 100% hit chance, guaranteed hit in part of his main rotation. If you can reduce his AP enough that he can't use that 100% guaranteed hit, well then he can't dispel buffs and he's not going to hit you. That's awesome. So I think there is a way to work this into things. Now, my general thoughts overall, kind of a jack of all trades utility character. I don't think she necessarily shines like some other characters do, but again, if you go through that list, Spirit and Missile Resistance for allies, Dispel, Re-raise, and Haste to an enemy on an AoE, 50 healing power down on a triple hit for chaining, 70 healing power down with a 38% unit in peril on the limit break, Dispel, Protect, and decrease counter chance AoE ability. Strider has break physical barrier and dispel courage on an AoE ability, and the Thief has steal time. So a lot of excellent pieces of utility here to lean into. Now again, seems to be a prime PvE character. We'll kind of know that at this point. I will say I think she's a little underwhelming in how similar she is to many of the other Earth units and how they operate, where for a while there the strength of the Earth cast was like evasive high slash characters with Ketone and Zazan and Halloween Fred. We started to obviously get some versatility there with Oberyn and Noctis, and even then with more recently Queen Mashri and Yrel, and now it just seems like we kind of went back to the old roots when we were finally starting to get some good diversity to the Earth cast. So it can be a good thing, can also be a bad thing. I'm also somewhat underwhelmed by her evasion potential, considering what the standard is for many evade units. I wish it was just a smidge higher, not significantly so, but 10% would have been awesome. Another thing to keep in mind, courage removal greatly neuters her damage output. As long as you have courage applied, you get that 40% spear penetration. Should you encounter characters that do courage removal as part of their own utility, you're going to see a big decrease in damage output, so that's something to absolutely be cognizant of. I will say she seems kind of like a catch-up unit, and that I think you're going to be able to build her in a variety of different ways, given what her innate resistances are. If you want to go super anti-magic, she's got the spirit potential to do it. Just throw in some magic resistance somewhere. If you want to go anti-missile, she's also got great capabilities for that. If you want to go for a unit that just brings in some kind of utility where if you just need Dispel Protect or Dispel Re-raise, or you do need healing power down in a certain situation, you can tweak her AI and her builds in a very wide array of ways to achieve your means to an end. And then two personal predictions. One, I do think she will have some changed value when King Bradley gets released as part of the Full Metal Alchemist collaboration in the future. And I think she will have some slightly changed value with the new weapon vision cards. I'm going to make a video on this, of the trail of breadcrumbs that I think Gumi has been laying with some of these unique job-based vision cards that have come out recently. And I think she's going to have some potential increased value with those vision cards. Now for the job-based vision cards, right now in Global, A Party for All is currently the only dagger job-based vision card. Now this is not one that would go on her, it would be on a party member like Sylvie, but it gives the AoE resistance of 16 and the crit rate of 25. So certainly a vision card that you could lean into. In the future in JP, there is a Resnick job-based vision card. Surprise, surprise. And for dagger units, it's slash attack 10, AoE resistance of 5. For the party, slash res of 24, attack 40%, and accuracy 25. Again, an excellent job-based vision card. And then there's the third that's coming out for her this week, which is increased crit rate, increased spirit, and slash attack resistance piercing rate up. Now we look at the Esper Synergies, nodes to focus, definitely from an offensive perspective, the slash attack, human killer, earth attack, evade for sure, and then everything else is matchup specific. So the evasion piece by itself kind of limits the number of Espers you can lean into, but Chaos Odin is still the best one for her as well as most evade units. Regular Odin's certainly a good one as well, just for some of the board nodes that it offers, but the other evade Espers, Glacial, Demon Shimra, Tetrasylphid, all offer their own strengths in terms of what they have for slash attack up, missile resistance, luck, wind resistance potentially, depending on the comp you're trying to build. And then finally, I think Titan and Golem are also two great mentions considering she's an Earth unit where both of these have Earth attack up. There's some human killer, spirit, defense, pierce res, accuracy, whatever you need, they both kind of offer it. So any selection of these Espers I think are a good choice for her. Now for the weapon optimization, Itty Bitty Bunny Blade, excellent weapon name, excellent weapon. Gives her the AoE resistance of 8, reaction block rate of 30, luck 15%. This luck 15% isn't a massive increase in evasion compared to the Chuckstone passive. It's only about 3% extra evasion rate in net total, but it's nice that it frees up that passive for you. In terms of which build to lean into, I think the Assault's probably the best one, but I do think the AIM version does have a time and place depending upon how you're trying to min-max your evasion and your accuracy should you need to. What I mean by that is, if you're going with the Assault build here and you need accuracy, well, if you put the Alex ring on her, you're gonna have a hard time finding the evasion somewhere else. At least a tougher time at finding the evasion somewhere else. But as an alternative, I do think the main Gauche is +6 is a great weapon here. This does offer 28 evasion on the evade build. So if you did want to say put the evade here, have an Alex ring on her instead for some extra accuracy. Like, this is a really good trade-off from that perspective. And that's the Resnick the Hoppy review altogether. Again, a character that maybe the timing not great. She's not going to make any big waves, but she certainly is still a quality unit with a lot of good things to look forward to. Earth is obviously in a spot that's kind of in stasis at the moment. I don't think she herself really elevates it to do much more than it already does, but I do think she's an upgrade over many of what the other Earth units are currently. But that's it for now. As always, comments, critiques, questions in the comment section below for those of you that have pulled her. Good luck building her. Hope you have some fun tinkering with her and seeing where she's applicable. And that's it for now. I'll talk to you all soon.